hello everybody. We welcome you back to another of the Mike and Bradley sports scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18. And the first time we're actually doing this 2 weeks apart rather than 1 month, which we've been doing for quite a while. And of course, my name is Mike Smith, and this is Bradley Hargis over here. Ethan, of course, is our engineer. And of course, we talk all about sports, local, college, and national, and maybe even international. So whatever's your game, and then we'll talk about it if you tell us what your favorite sport is. And of course, we'd like to hear from you from that. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We have thousands of people watching this, and I heard it sells computers because people just more or less when we see us on the air, they sell their computers so they don't have anything to do with it. But that's an old Bob Hope joke, you know. It's an old Bob Hope joke. But anyway, we're going to talk a little about the high school scene, the softball and the baseball teams. Of course, in the middle of the tournament time, unfortunately, the boys, they went out with a loss to Sequatchie County, so their season is pretty much over. Mm-hmm. The girls, on the other hand, well, they went to Dunlap last night and they took on Sequatchie County, and it did turn out to be one whale of a game, probably the best game they played in quite some time. As in of course, it remained scoreless till the bottom of the third when Sequatchie County scored on the run. But in the fourth inning, Bledsoe had on three, including a out of the park homer, and to take a 3-1 lead. And then in the top of the fifth, they put on another 3 runs to make it 6-1. And then in the seventh, Bledsoe County put on another run to make it 7-1, and Sequatchie put a run on to make it 7-2, but that was the final. And as a result, Bledsoe County is in the championship game. They will play Marion County Thursday night. That'll be, I believe, 5 o'clock at Dunlap. We'd like the fans to show up for that and cheer on the Lady Warriors, as they are now in the regions. They're one of the 2 teams in the region. And the important thing about this championship game, if you win it, you host the first round. Right. If you lose, you're going to go on the road. So it's very, very important here. Now, Bradley, I talked with some people last night about that. The Chattanooga teams don't seem to really have any enthusiasm for baseball and softball. They're all about football and basketball.
Football, basketball, yeah, and even soccer. That is the big city life as we know it is. That's what they focus on. Mm-hmm. Here in rural areas, you know, we just play whatever we can. But softball, aside from football and basketball, softball is probably. And baseball is probably 2 of the biggest sports in this area, because I can remember my dad played, and a lot of our parents played. Our grandparents played baseball.
I played baseball.
I mean, so it's a big deal for us.
Even I played baseball, and I was what they call barehanded baseball, which basically is we didn't have enough gloves to go around. Guess who didn't get the glove? Me. So I had to sort of.
Back in 1903 when you were playing this,
I'm not that old. I ain't that old.
But yeah, Sequatchie County. I mean, Bledsoe County won Sequatchie last night. I think Macy Hollins, the one that hit that home run, that started the rally last night, and Bledsoe 8-1 in the district. I mean, they are, as you mentioned, playing in the championship against Marion tomorrow night, and weather permitting, I hope it holds out so that Bledsoe can get that big W down there in Dunlap, because they are hosting the district tournament this year.
I wonder if Sequatchie County fans will show up for that game tomorrow night and root for Bledsoe.
I think they will.
I think
I think they will, because it's like the situation is the same in football as in any other sport here in the Valley. Mm-hmm. There's a rivalry between Bledsoe and Sequatchie, obviously, but there is a bitterness unlike that rivalry against Marion County. So so it don't matter what sport you're playing. So I would think that Sequatchie will show up in force, and it would not surprise me to see them cheering for the Bledsoe County Warriors tomorrow night as they take on Marion County in Dunlap tomorrow night. But you mentioned baseball. Baseball season did come to an end, but I was just looking back. In 23, they won 5 games.
Right.
In 24 last year, they won 13.
Okay. And
they've won 19.
So they've gone up in the.
They are improving. Not only that, they finished 3rd in the district. They did lose last night 7-8 against Dunlap, but something that hasn't happened to Bledsoe County in a very long time is Jonathan Thomas, the catcher, who was also quarterback number 1 for Bledsoe County Warriors last fall. Yeah. He's the catcher, and he was also named co-district player of the year this year.
That's not bad.
So that's preseason or postseason accolades that will certainly be coming in. I'm sure the all tournament things like that will be noticed, and once it's all done, said and done. So Bledsoe may have some more guys, but at least we do have some recognition. Jonathan Thomas playing good baseball this year for the Warriors and earned a very high honor for the Co-District Player of the Year. So I tip our hats to him and definitely want to congratulate him. And no doubt softball will have similar accolades when that
they'll have
when
to replace
season,
they'll have to replace the pitcher
when
who's
that
going
season,
off to
yeah.
Alabama to be not University of Alabama, but a college in Alabama.
Josie Potter, yeah,
Josie Potter, and she pitched her best game last night. I mean, she zipped that down there pretty much a lot of the times, and really that was how good she is, and she gets better every week, and she rarely ever has a bad game. But to be honest with you right now, watching the softball team play, they. It seems like when their back is against that wall, they come out swinging even more, to coin a term, swinging the bats out a little bit more. And I think it's that those girls actually did a lot of things when they exploded for that 3 runs in the fourth inning. Yeah. It lit something underneath them, because suddenly all of a sudden they started hitting those balls with great emphasis. With great emphasis. That tells you how this thing is. And the coaches come in here and they instantly made this team better, and that's the real thing. And I think that right now, you look at Bledsoe County, you look at Sequatchie County, you look at the Valley schools, they're putting the time, they're putting the effort, they're putting the money to make these teams even great. And I'm not saying that they're really on a par yet with the Chattanooga schools or the Nashville schools or the Middle Tennessee schools yet, but they are getting there, and they will be there within the next few years.
Well, you have places like over Chattanooga and the big city or the inner city schools. They have a lot more outreach in regards to funding, especially with sponsorships and things of that nature. They have more access to those things. Sequatchie County, obviously has more than us. They do have Walmart. They do have a lot more restaurants than we have. So the pull there is really good for them. But quite frankly, Bledsoe County being where we are, we do pretty well with what we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, we also have a lot of sponsors here locally. BTC Fiber sponsors a lot of things. I know that. The pharmacy right next door here at Stevens Farm, we sponsor quite a bit. A lot of the major businesses here in town, we're willing to give. We're willing to help those programs, because we know that if we invest in these kids, we invest in our future. And that's what a lot of communities are starting to realize, and more money is starting to pour in. I know it seems like we ask for money all the time. These organizations are coming around asking for sponsorships and donations and things of that nature. Friends, it takes money to grow.
That's right.
And it takes money to get better. Unfortunately, that is the thing that keeps the wheels rolling on these programs is giving the green. You've got to make sure you get the money in there to allow them to get equipment and the training things that they need to enhance their game. And baseball and softball is no different. I mean, we think about football a lot because you got the pads and you got the balls and the weights and things like that. Softball and baseball need the same thing. Basketball, jerseys, shoes, things to help training.
These are the important things.
There's so many things that the money can go for, and baseball and softball have more than earned a right to be ranked up there with the football and basketball teams here in Bledsoe County, and flag football and soccer. They're making a headway too to get up there with them. So
absolutely,
everything is on the rise here in the valley, and I like seeing that.
I went in 1999 to the National Championship celebration at Neyland for Tennessee, and they had John Ward, of course, was honored as the voice of the Vols, Emeritus, and he talked about something. Now, it's something that I never forgot. That he says it's not the stands, it's not the field. It's not the players, not the coaches, not the athletic staff, not the university. It is the fans that make the programs. And that's what he said, and it's still important today. John Ward knew that the fans is what pays the bills, what contributes the money, what gets this sort of thing. They had a story one time. The University of Georgia in the 1920s wanted to build their own stadium, so they asked fans, boosters, to sign a note for $1,000. For $1,000. Okay, they paid $1,000 to build what's now known as Sanford Stadium. Okay. The first team that they invited down to open up the season was the Yale Bulldogs, Ivy League. Come down there, and the trainer who was an absolute fool, who was from the South, and this was September, had them dressed out in woolen uniforms, and they were wore out even before the game began, and of course, Georgia beat them, and they said. After the game, they had a banquet. Those days they had a banquet, post-game banquet for both teams, and they handed the check of $90,000. They would come down for $45,000. So they handed them a check for $90,000 because it was a sellout. It was $3 for tickets, and it was like they had 20, 25, 30,000 seats in that stadium at the time. And Yale looked up. Tore the check up. No, we come down here for expenses. No more. And that was it. And they paid with that money the stadium off with that money because Yale Bulldogs wouldn't take the money. They said, we just come down for expenses. No more. That's how it is. So you have to remember this right now. You look at this. When I started broadcasting in 1999, you didn't have the facilities there. They just weren't there. You had the seating, the stadiums, and the press box. That was about it. That's all you had. Over the years, they put in new facilities, new restrooms. They put in additions to the press box. They're going to build a new. Athletic center. Where they dress and that sort of thing. And they're going to do all that at the north end zone and that sort of thing. And and I talked to Jason Real. You remember last year at the game we saw the Bledsoe Warriors in the end zones. Mm-hmm. He said, "We're trying to get money to buy that thing so that we could checkerboard the end zones." Now that would be great.
Yeah, that would be neat.
It'd be great, checkerboard the end zones, that sort of thing. But I'll tell you one thing that they should never do: don't put artificial turf on that field. I don't care if it's the latest fad; it's ridiculous. I don't want a Doug's rug.
I've got mixed feelings about that. I'm a sucker for the natural grass. Mm-hmm. I love it. I think it's great. I love getting when the rain comes and the things get muddy and then people have grass stains and mud. That's just football.
That's football.
It's just football to me, and I'm a sucker for that. But you can't deny. Now, this is regardless of the cost. Throwing that out the window, just looking at it from the naked eye. Turf looks really good.
It does.
It's pretty. Don't get me wrong now, but I am a sucker for natural grass. I love that, and you see a lot of baseball teams, in the college spectrum are going to turf. UT. They play on turf.
Ray County has turf in their baseball field.
And I mean, it's just and the theory is it's easier to upkeep. And in theory it is. You don't have to mow it. You don't have to water it. And I get that. I get it. But it takes away from the game, to me, because the dirt and the grass is part of it. I mean, what are you gonna? If you skin your knee on turf, you can't say rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
That used to be the other thing. I'll rub some dirt on it, get back in there. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Rub them rubber pellets on it? To keep that, because there's nothing else. But I like the natural grass. I do, and I think that Bledsoe County has, in my opinion, and especially in regards to facilities right now, I think we've got some dandy facilities.
Yeah.
I think the football field is in good shape. I think the baseball field is in good shape. And a lot of that comes with, those who are the coaches and things who are involved, but the parents as well, and also the school taking the initiative to make sure those things are lined and drugged properly and make sure that the grass is and field is in good working order. and not just that, but the fence and the stands themselves. I mean, it's a team effort, community effort, and I think Bledsoe is doing a lot of good right now, not just in the performing aspect, but also in the aesthetics, looking like a good program, and we do. We have good people who are at the helm right now that's really making things look very good for us.
When Tennessee was going back from artificial turf to grass in '93, they had a hilarious cartoon that they put in the Knoxville paper, and I wish I had brought it with me because it's really hilarious. And I said the UT administration is pulling up the artificial turf among other things. It was like a bandy player smashed flat. The turf. It was hilarious. It was bandy because it was 65-0 or something like that.
You know, years ago we got to play when I was in high school. We got to play on turf at Tennessee Tech.
Yeah.
That was a scrimmage game against Westmoreland, and I had just assumed to be walking out here on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The turf there at that time, now I'm sure it's different now. They've upgraded and everything and fixed it. So I'm not talking bad about Tennessee Tech's football field because obviously the facilities have been upgraded in the last 20 years. But when we played on it, that turf was like playing in the parking lot.
Yeah.
It was hard. And I mean, I can remember it didn't give with you at all. I mean, and I didn't get to play that much. Yeah. But I remember walking on it thinking, my goodness, this is like walking on concrete. But now, with the way things are, they make turf look just like natural grass. They make it look, it's for lack of better words, fluffy.
Yeah.
It's softer. It's thicker. So it looks more like regular grass, and they put those little rubber pellets out there to keep the grass standing up so it doesn't lay one way or the other, and it kind of cushions the fall. And if you can remember, when you see somebody drag their foot or something across the turf, and you see those, it seems like that. It looks like you might think it's dirt coming up. No, that's little teeny tiny rubber pellets. Rubber pellets that's worked down in the grass to keep that soft and I guess more ground like regular grass. But again, it looks really good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Sequatchie County installed turf a few years ago, and it's pretty. It is. I mean, it looks good and it stays green year round. But I am a sucker for natural grass. I like the natural look.
When I was in high school, we would have like flag football or tag football, touch football, and we played on old Greason Field. Let me put it this way: playing on concrete would be softer. You also had, because you had horse shows, you had the fair on it and all that, and it's like you have to watch it, make sure you don't stick your foot in the hole and that sort of thing, and that sort of thing. And I don't think it's much better now, to be honest with you.
Well, it's kept up by the Bledsoe County Little Blue.
They may have done some things to it.
Keep it mowed, fill in some of the holes and everything. Back when I was involved, there wasn't really much you could do about it, but it's just basically like playing in your backyard.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no, very, very rarely, if ever, is it ever aerated, watered, seeded, sodded, whatever. That just doesn't happen because, honestly, the funds just aren't there. I mean, it's not there to keep it done unless somebody wants to donate the time and the funds and the effort to do those things. That would be great. I'm sure it'd be very appreciative. But honestly, it's just they keep it mowed good and upgrade the facilities, but the field itself, it's not something that I would definitely want to play a middle school level football game on.
I would
because
not. I wouldn't do it either. But that sort of thing. You look at it this way: is that my dad played football for Bledsoe County in the 1940s. After World War II, he came back from the Navy, finished his high school graduate education at Bledsoe County High School, and he played football for old Roy Greason. Now, at the time, they were playing right where the playground at the old high school is now. That was the football field. That was the stadium. No seats, nothing. You could sneak in. He would charge 50 cents, but you would sneak in. And he said, is that you'd be picking rocks out of your arm after that. And one time he had boils on his arm, and Greason made him play the entire game with boils on his arm. That's how it tells you.
Oh wow.
He's very 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 tough coach.
Sure. Yeah.
Very very because a story was that when I was in school, my dad was working for Coca-Cola after he got out of the military, and I was watching him fix the Coke machines, just more or less Coke machines, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw Roy Greason coming. I said, here comes Coach Greason. Now my dad, who smoked like a chimney, put that cigarette and he threw it down. And I said, what you do that for? You ain't a student here no more. He said, well, you know it and I know it, but I'm not sure that he does. Because he said he wasn't afraid of Greason, but he respected him.
Yeah,
he respected him. He's one of those coaches that you, like Bear Bryant and Robert Nealing was like, it was not, you weren't afraid of him, but you surely didn't want to get on his bad side, that sort of thing. But yeah, it is a lot of things. You got, of course, they're already auditioning for flag football next year. Mm-hmm. And the first year was highly successful.
Well, yeah, I mean they finished 6 and 7 for the first year, and that's pretty good.
That's not bad.
Number 2 in the district, I mean, which spanned a long way. Stone Memorial, something I can't understand. Stone Memorial won the district. 8-1 in the district actually, right. Mm-hmm. And they said they've had an established flag football program for a while now. Who have they been playing? That's what I don't understand, because they said that they have a program up and running and they've been playing quite a bit. But just this year it was recognized by TWSAA. But
I think it was just more or less just like intramural, that sort of thing. It may have
been, but they have a developed program. They got a head start on everybody, I can tell you that. But Bledsoe did very well. Most of their problems was with Stone. They could beat everybody else.
Yeah.
They split games throughout the year with other teams, but 6 and 7 is not that bad for the inaugural season. And
I know that,
number 2 in the district, what more can you ask for? I mean,
I think Coach Taylor was sort of looking at some of those players and sort of like, hey, maybe I can get them to play football.
Yeah,
that'd be great. That'd be a great way to get your recruiting right there, that sort of thing. But let's be honest, right? Of course, we got football practice coming up. I believe if it has not started, it's probably already on the way. And then, of course, in the fall, of course, let's hope that the girls somehow get all the way to Murfreesboro and hopefully play for state.
I think football spring practice will start up about middle of May. Maybe toward the end of May, I think.
I think that's about right. But let's hope that the girls get to Murfreesboro. I mean, they come close a couple of times, and I think if they can get past Marion County, I think they'll have a good chance playing in the region and then onward here.
Before we move on, though, we got to think about men's soccer.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
8-5-1. They lost in the semifinal district tournament, 8-0 to Chattanooga Prep. So their season is done. But 8-5-1, very respectable. I mean, that's, again, they're winning more and improving each year. So we got to make sure we mention the soccer program.
Absolutely.
Because they're up and coming as well.
Fishing tournament as well.
Yeah.
They finished second.
Yeah.
Second in the I think down in one tournament. Finished second. Lost by 1 point. That's how close it was. So congratulations to the fishing team as well. Archery doing well, and among other things. And
who would have ever thought? And I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm for it. I think that's great. Anything you can do to get young people involved in these events and things like that. But I would have loved to have had a bass team.
Absolutely. I would have loved to
when I was in school.
I would have loved to have a redneck fishing team.
They had at one time. They had a ping pong team.
Yeah.
TWSAA doesn't recognize it now, I don't think, but Bledsoe County had a ping pong team. We didn't. All we had when I was in school was we had volleyball, we had basketball, we had baseball, softball, and we had football. And I'm like, now they've got bass tournament, they've got archery, they've got soccer, men and women's, they've got flag football. It's amazing how many more things that giving these young people an opportunity to get involved in something. It's great, I love it, but I mean, my goodness,
let's have a redneck fishing team. Using dynamite to catch fish.
Oh yeah, good luck with that.
Good
luck with that. Yeah.
So like I said, it's a very important. I think that the children of this community be brought up to help at least they don't play sports, at least to help in some way or manner. So that's very, very important to us. Okay, we're going to go to a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about college sports, including the announcement by Vol Legend. As unfortunately he is going to retire before he even got it going in the pros. So we'll be back in a minute after you listen to the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18 and WAT AM 1110 Pikeville.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, we're back. We're going to talk about the college scene, college football, as we have an unfortunate sad announcement here. It's Brew McCoy, who was a receiver and who was the key player in the victory over Alabama in 2022. Transfer from USC, announces that he's retiring from football at age 24. Injuries apparently is the reason. In fact, he had told the NFL, "Don't draft me. I'm just not." The doctors have basically told him and said that the injuries he has suffered have pretty much just finished his career as a football player. You know, Brew McCoy, of course, one of those, you hear the sound brew every time he makes a reception. He made that clutch catch that set up that winning field goal against Alabama in 2022. He got injured in 2023, had to spend half the season out, and then came back in 2024 and helped get the team to a 10-win season.
You know, the severity of the injury that he suffered at the end of his season, the last time he went out, would normally be a season-ending injury. I mean, a career-ending injury. But he went through intense rehab because he wanted to put on the orange and play again. He wanted to play
that one last chance
more than anything to finish what he started at Tennessee. And and regardless of whether he didn't go to the NFL or not, Brew McCoy will go down as one of those legends of Tennessee because of the fact that he loved the university, he loved the fan base, and I would say he's probably one of the more active players in the community as far as going out and being a face of the program in the community and even on media days and things like that. He never shied away from a chance to represent the university. And so, I hate to see the fact that he's not going to be in the next level, but we understand medically retiring due to the injuries and things of that nature. I mean, you can't fault him for that because it's only going to get tougher in the NFL as far as the speed of the game, the impact and things of that nature. So I have to say, while he's ahead, he's got a really good career at Tennessee, had a great career at Tennessee. So I'm glad to see that he succeeded to the level that he wanted to. He defied all odds and came back and finished his career at the Vols and went out on top as far as I'm concerned.
He played 1 year at USC, did very well there, but when he saw what they were doing at Tennessee, this is where he wanted to be, so he transferred along with Chase McGrath, by the way, who kicked that field goal, and obviously they both flourished and did very, very well. And of course, another player of note who's had similar situation was Inky Johnson. He got hurt for Tennessee about around 15 years ago. Could not ever play another down for Tennessee yet. He's a motivational speaker. He goes out there and encourages.
I've heard him.
Young,
I've heard him several times.
He's a very knowledgeable young man, very motivational speaker, and he obviously he encourages the youth to do their very best. And it's what you call is, if you got a lemon, make a lemonade. In this case, they took a whole grove full of lemons and they made a whole lot of lemonade. So
well, you think about, the situation that both of those guys are in. I mean, case in point to things that when I've heard Inky Johnson speak, he always talks about how blessed he was to get the opportunity, and how that prior to the injury, he never realized how precious those moments were until he couldn't do them anymore.
You get hit over that head.
So you have to make the best of what you have, and now he's going around encouraging people to, even though he's been set back, even though his career was ended, life continued.
Yep.
Life continued, and he is flourishing now as a motivational speaker, and he is an excellent young man and a product of the University of Tennessee, and I couldn't be more proud of him, and I know that other people are as well. But he's done very well for himself, and I see Brew McCoy doing something similar to that. Granted, he's able to go and do and function, just not at the level of the NFL.
Yeah.
But Inky, of course, has that paralyzed arm because of the injury that he sustained. One of the bigger hits that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
That took the brunt of it and paralyzed that one arm.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he is a Vol legend, just like Brew McCoy, and just like many others that came through. And he goes to show you that you got to take advantage of the opportunity you have each and every time, every down. Be thankful for it and treat it. The down might be your last. You might have something happen, God forbid. But never forget how blessed you are to go out and do the things that you do, especially at the level those two guys have been able to perform at.
One thing is that I was reading several years ago in called Last Coach, which was the biography of Paul Bear Bryant. He said in 1973 TCU was playing Alabama at Birmingham. I think it was probably at Birmingham, and one of their players named Walter got hit. Fairhead was in a cheap shot, and he went down and he was paralyzed from the waist down. He was paralyzed from the waist down, and Bear Bryant just absolutely was just tore up about it. He said it made him realize that this could happen to any of his players, and he changed his ways a little bit. He changed things around, and he made sure that player got took care of when Texas Christian wouldn't do anything for him. So he made sure that he got the medical bills paid. He made sure he made him an honorary Alabama lineman and all that. And Waldrop, he said simply is that he said as a result, he said, Bear Bryant did more for me than my own university did, and that sort of thing. And he said, and I also made him go out and campaign for medical insurance for players, so they would not have to ever go through that again. So I would say probably sometimes you get held over the head with the 2x4, and you realize, hey, look, life's only going to be there for a little while. You better do something positive and make something positive out of it. That was what Inky Johnson, and this is what Brew McCoy will do. I hope will do to make better people and to encourage the youth of America. And most athletes are like that. They really want the youth to be better than they are. And you hear people giving the bad rap on athletes and all that. And there are some bad apples in every group. Anything you do, you're gonna have bad apples. So you're gonna have to find, hey, look, does this guy do this? Does this guy do that? There's a story about Peyton Manning. There was a kid there. He was at a seminar, and he was a kid, and this kid was scared to death. He was crying because he was in such a crowd and all that. And Peyton Manning sat down took him to another room, started talking with him and all that, got him laughing and all that, and he said, and the kid come out and he calmed down and he was just like that. And he says, because I made sure that, he said, well, what did you say to him? I made sure that he said, you have a friend in me. And that was Peyton Manning. He cared. He cared a great deal. Yeah, of course, his kids are teenagers now.
Yeah.
His son Matthew is a good passer. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in an big orange uniform in a few years down the line.
Wouldn't it?
Maybe another Manning on the way, that sort of thing. But I think it's that right now you're looking at it this way: is that college sports is going to change. I think they're going to have to do something about the NILs. I hate to harp on that, but it's unfortunate the thing, and then they're going to have to start doing something. I think President Trump is saying something. Hey, look, we need to set up something here to get done on it.
Well, after he went to Tuscaloosa and spoke at that commencement thing, he had a meeting with Nick Saban, and from what I understand, that was the majority of the conversation was getting a grasp on this NIL garbage that's going around, and something has to be. I mean, obviously, anybody, even the people who were like major proponents for NIL, are now saying, "Okay, we've got to do something. We got to get a grip on this."
You got to get this.
And it's true. It's true. The whole thing was never designed to be a pay to play type thing. That's what it's become. And very, very quickly, it has been just to offer some money to make things more comfortable for the player.
Yeah.
And to give them more of an incentive. In regards to what the school and the teams are making off of their jersey sales and things like that. And I understand that in theory, but I mean, who would ever thought in college football and college sports period that you would be signing contracts for X amount of $1 million a year, and it just blows my mind. So they're going to have to pull. They're working now actively to pull the reins back on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think they've
already closed the transfer portal down to one time a year as opposed to any time you please. So they're already taking strides to do that. And if they don't do it now, then college sports as we know it is just going to be.
You let the gorilla out of that cage. It's awfully hard to get it back in.
Oh, absolutely.
So that sort of thing. But of course, we got baseball and softball. I think the SEC softball tournament's about to start.
SEC softball tournament has started.
Okay.
And, Tennessee, number 3 in the nation, 40-13 on the year so far. They will play the winner of Arkansas and Georgia, who play tonight. They'll play the winner of them tomorrow, on Thursday, May 8th, and will be the first round. They had a double bye, had a play-in game plus the first round. Tennessee had the double bye, Oklahoma had a double bye, and a couple others. So it's in full swing. Tennessee baseball down to number 15. Number 15.
They've had some problems.
They've had some issues. Yeah, they've surely have. 37-11 on the year. I mean, so the record is still good.
Yeah.
But it's just that there's so many other teams that are playing better right now than Tennessee, and they close out the year with arguably 2 of the hardest teams to play in the country. They have a series of Vanderbilt, and then one game against Belmont to kind of get their legs under them. And
I know they beat Indiana State.
And then they play Arkansas to close out the year, before the SEC baseball tournament starts on May 20th. So
Arkansas actually is one of the 4 teams they're projecting into the World Series Final Four.
Arkansas and Vandy. Vandy's a top 10 team. Arkansas, I think, is ranked in the top 5.
Auburn's also in there.
Yep.
So
SEC is moving on up in the baseball and even in the softball standings. And
the thing again is that they're talking again about the super conferences. They're talking about the Big Ten and the SEC being the big bow wows. Everybody else will be like the little chihuahuas. We sit around here and bark at your leg and that sort of thing. And then shake when they get beat by the big. And the thing about it is that now this is an interesting thing. Akron University, the Zips, okay, have been told you can't go to a bowl this year. Not because they violated NCAA rules, it's because they dropped below the percentage of which athletes must strive academically.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, 93% or something like that. And so Akron dropped below that, so they told them you can't go to a bowl. It don't matter because Akron has never gone to a bowl. Has not had too many winning seasons.
Yeah, I hate that that's is the case. But I mean, like you said, when has Akron been to a bowl? It's kind of like, that's kind of telling like somebody that's allergic to chocolate you can't eat chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
I've not eaten chocolate in how many years, but why tell me I can't have it? It's just kind of weird. But I mean, I'm not allergic to chocolate, thank God. But I know some people that are. But that's just weird, like telling Bledsoe County football they can't play in the Super Bowl. We'll never play in the Super Bowl. Okay, great, big news, woohoo!
I saw something a few years ago. They said abandoned college football stadiums. These are stadiums that been abandoned for whatever reason, structurally sound. They new stadiums. The Rubber Bowl. Have you ever heard of the Rubber Bowl?
The Rubber Bowl. No.
No, this was a studio. This was a Akron used to play there in the Rubber Bowl in Akron, Ohio. And what it is that it was like a very small stadium, sort of like almost a little bigger than Bledsoe County's maybe. And they abandoned it because basically the facilities were bad. Well, the problem was they couldn't tear it all down because you know why? Because there was a highway right above it at the north end zone. The highway was on there. Now, if they took out that north end zone, the highway would collapse. So they took out everything else but that north end zone. And today, if you pass by that, you can actually see the north end zone.
Wow.
I think they're eventually they're going to shift the highway a little bit to the north, so because they can't tear it down. But that tells you how it is. You look at all the football stadiums that they had. You look at Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
No SEC team would play at Jordan-Hare Stadium until the 1970s because it was too small.
Right.
Tennessee wouldn't play there until 1974 because they would play at Birmingham. So Auburn would play at Birmingham.
Well, look in the SEC, the smallest stadium got to be Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They're making strides to improve that and expand seating and things of that nature. They've been working on it the past.
Yeah, they have.
They've been working on it the past 39 years. But that's great. That's awesome. But the thing that's strange to me is there are high school teams in Texas.
Yeah, they have better stadiums.
That have larger stadiums than a very large percentage of college football teams. And I mean, of course, football is a different breed altogether down in Texas. I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I see on social media a lot of people, there'll be a link or something showing the largest football stadiums and I'm like, I've never seen that stadium. And I look it up, and I'm like, what college is that? Oh, it's a high school stadium.
High school stadium.
There's high school stadiums that are actually like bowls.
They got 10,000, 12,000.
I'm like, how in the world could I can't imagine at the high school level playing in front of 25,000, 30,000 people.
Yeah.
That is just wild at the high school level.
Of course, if Bledsoe goes to the state championship game in Chattanooga, they're going to have 25,000.
Sure.
For that.
Yeah.
They said, one of the reasons that Sewanee, which was originally a member of the Southeastern Conference, not many people remember it or know it. They were from 1933 to 1940. One of the big problems they had was getting SEC teams to come up there.
Yeah.
Okay, they had a 2,000 seat stadium. They weren't in a big city. They, little place. If you've been to Sewanee, I've been to Sewanee. I know what it's like. It's a very beautiful university. You should go drive through it and see what it looks like. But what happened is that Sewanee couldn't get above a couple of thousand in there. They had to play all their SEC games on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1940, they were de-emphasizing athletics. They weren't offering scholarships anymore to players. It's all walk-ons, like Ivy League. And so after 1940, they just dropped out. Now, they actually had one time where they were going to have what they called a Magnolia League. It was going to be Vanderbilt. It was going to be some Ivy League schools. It was going to be Tulane. It was going to be this was in the 1950s. Because they said, well, you guys can't win in your big conferences. Go, why not just play each other and have something like that? But it never came to pass, the Magnolia League.
Yeah.
So, but let's put this right now. People talk about, why don't you get rid of Vanderbilt? They never win in the SEC. Ain't going to happen. Because they're a founding member of the SEC, and everybody, as you like,
they're never going to win the SEC.
They're where their heart. That's the heart.
They upset Alabama last year.
Yeah.
They've beat Tennessee. In recent memory, every school that is a powerhouse has either struggled or been beat by Vanderbilt. At least once. In the last 15 years. I mean, it's not like there's a huge, gap. I mean, it's just like. And with the way the transfer portal is now, NIL, Vanderbilt, they can compete with the big boys. They showed it last year. They won some games that they wouldn't have had a shot at without the transfer portal.
They came close to beating Texas. They came close to beating Texas and Nashville. The thing about it is that up to the 1960s, Vanderbilt was reasonably competitive in the SEC. At one time, finished second in the conference in the mid-1930s. In fact, you know who they picked to win the first SEC title in football in 1933?
Probably Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt. Alabama won it. Vanderbilt finished second in 1935, but, they said one of the biggest mistakes Vanderbilt ever made was getting rid of an assistant coach in the 1930s. His name was Paul Bear Bryant. Because he was the one who made Vanderbilt go.
Yeah. And
they said for some strange reason, him and the head coach did not get along. They were two strong-headed guys. And so as a result, Bryant was going to Arkansas to become head coach at Arkansas. Then World War II broke out, and he that plans and that sort of thing. But you look at this, you look at the SEC. They've improved in every category. In Tennessee, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, softball, baseball, archery, tennis, track, all those sports, they've improved immensely.
Sure.
You look at the baseball stadium; they redid that next to Lindsey Nelson Stadium. That's one of that was one of the great facilities. When both Tony Vitello came into that, UT had the second worst facilities in the country. Among all the facilities. And he says, we got to start building these facilities back up or we can't get players we need.
Right.
And they listened to him, and as a result, national championship.
It's in recent memory. You could go to a college baseball game at Tennessee for $8 to $10 ticket.
Yeah.
In softball, for the same thing. Now, by my goodness, you go up there to a marquee game, you'll pay $40 to $60 for a ticket. I
used to remember saying $16.
Wow.
$16 to go see a football game in the 1980s. Now, how much is $70?
$16 now wouldn't get you a hot dog, a candy bar, and a Coke.
I object to them selling beer at those games.
Yeah.
I don't want. Last thing I want to do is have beer breath down my neck.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, I'm. If there's anybody, and I know that everybody has their own opinion, I get it. I am dead set against alcohol. Always have been. Always will be. I've seen what it can do to people. I've seen what it can do to families.
Oh yeah,
I've had it in mine.
Personally.
I've had it in others. And I've heard the horror stories, and I've seen what it can do by working with the rescue squad and things like that. So, I just have no use for it whatsoever. Now, if you want to do that, that's fine. It's up to you. I'm not saying that you're a bad person if you do that. I'm just saying it's not for me. So, in that regard, keep that in mind. You go to Neyland Stadium, and the vast majority of the people would drink at tailgate anyway.
Yeah.
So they would come in and sneak it in, for years.
Yeah.
Before it ever became sold at Neyland. So, do I agree with the fact that Neyland Stadium now sells it? Well, no. I mean, it was already there. It's just the fact that it's being sold in the stadium as opposed to being drunk outside the stadium and bringing it in. So
of course they're very strict about who they're going to sell it to. If you're obviously drunk or you're under 21, that sort of thing. Yeah, I know all about alcohol. I know from personal experience what being hit with a drunk driver is, and of course my late brother Roger, God rest his soul, probably did not deserve the fate that he got. But to be honest with you right now is that I think is that it just isn't something that I particularly will have. And if they ever decide to sell it at high school football games, then basically that's it for me.
Yeah, I don't
see it. It's not going to sell it in high school.
That'll never happen.
So I don't think it'll happen.
Not at that level.
But then I would retire. But then again, so that's not a good reason here. Okay, when we come back, we're going to go to pro baseball, Major League Baseball. I know he's got some later statistics and some things to say, and maybe a little bit of pro, including the draft, which just concluded a few weeks back, and what some of the controversy that came out of that little deal with a certain player. I'll let you all figure out who that is. As you're listening to the Mike and watching the Mike and Bradley sports scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18 and WAT Radio.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. While you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Okay, we're back. We were talking off screen about Bradley's favorite pet cat.
I'm not even gonna talk about the cat. I just don't.
You can give it as a mascot for Bledsoe County.
Can we? Yeah,
Smokey.
no. I'm not even going there. Nope. I'm not a cat person. I like cats when they're kittens, but when they get old, we ain't talking about my cat. We're talking about sports.
So get back to the thing we was talking about. Let's talk about the Major League Baseball. Of course, we're going into May, and obviously the races are getting hotter. And of course, some teams are hot and some teams are not, like the Braves.
Well, now hold on a second. Before you say the Braves aren't hot, the Braves in the last 10 games are 6-4. They were dead last the last time that we had a show. Dead last in the East. Of course, it was way early. Now the Braves are third in the East, behind the Phillies at number 2 and the Mets at number 1. So, and they had a lot of excitement last night. Finally, in 10 innings, Ozuna with a walk-off home run, beating the Reds 2-1 in 10 innings, and Chris Sale having a great game, pitched 6.2 innings. and had 10 strikeouts, only allowed 5 hits and 2 walks. So, you know, is the potential for the Braves to turn things around even more? Yes. It's way early. Friends, understand we've only played, you know, 35 games, if that. You know, 35, 38 games, depending upon what team you're rooting for, and there's well over 100 games left in the season. So I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But the Braves, you know, Acuna's not back. Strider came back, but then he messed his hamstring up. Playing catch. I don't know if he's playing with his kids or if he's playing with, you know, catch at practice. I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, he's on the 15-day IL. You know, and Acuna rehab assignment starts this month. He was supposed to go back to L.A. To get clearance. They talked back and forth, and he said that his knee had healed to the point that they could bypass that. He gave him the approval to go start the rehab assignment. So he'll be starting that with AAA probably probably middle of this month, if not later this month, and we'll be back in very, very short time. So that's a bright spot. Strider coming back again, and Acuna coming back. We're hitting, not majorly, but we're hitting enough to win 6 out of the last 10. And going from dead last to third. We jumped the Marlins, we jumped the Nationals. You know, next thing we're going to do is jump the Phillies. The next thing we're going to do is jump the Mets. And guess what? Guess who's going to be number 1 in the East? the end of this season, the ATL Braves. And I have been doing. I've been working on this, Mike. I've been working on my chop. Because it's now Braves are playing well enough now that they deserve a few chops. So I'm excited about that. Of course, with the NL West, your Dodgers are still.
Yeah, let's talk about the Dodgers.
Dodgers are, you know, are ahead out there, 24-12 on the year. Padres, and kind of been flip flopping with them out there for the number 1 spot. But out of all the teams in baseball, the Dodgers probably are the hottest. Out of the last 10 games, they're 8-2, won 8 of the last 10. So they, of course, the Padres have won 7 of the last 10. So I mean, they're the two, the cream of the crop out in the West, Padres and the Dodgers. And Dodgers are still the favorite to win the World Series again. We just looked at those odds before we started here today, just to make sure that I got things right. And Dodgers are the favorite. The Mets have moved up to the number 2 spot. The Yankees fell to number 3. And then you have teams like Detroit, Philadelphia, and Chicago and Seattle. Those teams were not even thought about in regards to World Series odds at the very beginning of the season, but now have boosted themselves up to that point, and Atlanta rounds out that list. Still with a chance to make the World Series and odds to make the World Series. And it's interesting. You know, your Cubs, who are usually battling it out with Milwaukee and St. Louis for the NL Central. Cubs are number 1 right now in NL Central, 25-15. One of the best records in baseball, not the best, but one of the best records in baseball. And of course, your normal American League teams. Yankees lead the Boston Red Sox. They're 20-16 on the year. Tigers lead the Central, and Seattle Mariners, strangely enough, lead the AL West. But the big surprise to me so far this season, aside from the Braves not performing, is the fact that Oakland is second right now in the AL West with a 20-17 record. And Oakland was picked to basically be a bottom feeder this year.
Right.
All the situations with them moving and things like that, playing in Sacramento, outside of Oakland, their fan base in an uproar because they made the comment, "We don't want to be Sacramento's team," and people at Sacramento's like, "Well, fine, you know, you're going to get like 12 people to come to the ball game now." It's just a mess. It's a mess, and they could have all been avoided if the Oakland Athletics had just come to Nashville. Yeah. If they had been the Nashville Athletics, everything would have been fine.
They were the Kansas City Athletics.
That's
at one point.
Oh well, can't do anything about it now. But yeah, it's a lot of baseball left to play. But if you're a baseball fan right now, and you look at the records, a lot of the teams are very, very close.
You know, I was reading something on the computer one day, and it just sort of popped up, and I sort of was fascinated with Buffalo, New York wanted a professional baseball team. They want a Major League Baseball team. Well, they kept getting it turned down. So they said, okay, if we're going to get them in here, let's build a stadium that any Major League team would be proud of. So they built one. Now, this is about 25,000 fans. Okay. Beautiful stadium. Everybody thought it was great and beautiful, wonderful. No. Major League Baseball would not award a team to thing. They tried to buy the San Francisco Giants. Okay, they were going to move it there, and they're going to call it the New York Giants in Buffalo, New York. That was the name. That was seriously, we're going to do this. And well, of course, the owners of San Francisco Giants said, no, we're not going to move, because we moved from New York already. Yeah. This is 1960s. So today, their minor league team uses it, and they said it's better than any Major League team stadium out there today. It's still there, and because Major League Baseball just did not want to put a Major League team in there, an expansion team.
Well, you already had right there in the vicinity. In the vicinity of that, you had Mets, Yankees, Boston,
Montreal,
right across the pond. I mean, or Lake Erie. I mean, which is a glorified pond.
Well, that's what the British call the Atlantic Ocean, the pond.
I mean, you have so many teams right there in the vicinity, and you've got higher market cities that are marketing wise would be a better fit for baseball. Nashville is now one of the top, and if expansion happens, which there have been talk of expansion happening, the last expansion we had was Colorado and Florida. And that was the last two teams that was added Major League Baseball. But there is some talk about adding 2 to 4 teams. If you follow the rumor mill and things of that nature, now what truth they have to them, I don't know. But Nashville is one of the teams that they are kicking around, maybe bringing an expansion team to. And if they do, I'm sorry. I know they're going to be just up the road, but they ain't going to take the place of my Braves now.
I'm going to tell you something right now. The problem with Nashville is that they have Cincinnati, okay, Cincinnati, the Reds, and you have the Atlanta Braves, and you have the
St. Louis Cardinals,
and you also have the Washington Nationals.
Well, which used to be Montreal's.
If you look
at the map, in regards to fan bases, just above Nashville and into Kentucky, the red of St. Louis comes down, Cardinals. The red of the Cincinnati Reds comes down from Cincinnati, and the Braves meet, and it all meets right there close to being north of Nashville.
Yeah.
So technically, Nashville would be considered Braves country,
right?
Based on the fan base, based on the maps.
Yeah.
If you pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people in the western side of Tennessee that are St. Louis Cardinals fans.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in eastern and central Kentucky, even in eastern Tennessee and northern eastern Tennessee, that are Reds fans because of the pull of the fan base. And if you're not watching the Braves on TV here, what team are you watching? The Cincinnati Reds. Because geographically that is the biggest pull as far as ratings outside the Braves. And now obviously you're not going to watch the Reds in Georgia, but here in Tennessee, if you that was one of the things that made a lot of people switch over to the Bledsoe fiber from what we had, because one of the Fox Sports show was not going to offer the Braves and the Hawks. They were going to play the Cincinnati Reds and teams outside of our region. So it's just one of those things. I've been a Braves fan since I was old enough to even know what baseball was. And no fault to anybody else. I mean, if you want to cheer for a team, that's fine. But the only really the question that I have, or put an asterisk by your name, is if you say you're a Yankees fan or a Mets fan. I'm just like, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. You can be a fan of whoever you want to, but I've been a lifelong Braves fan, and I'm going to be a Braves fan even if Nashville does get a team. You know, that would be great. Memphis has also been kicked around the idea. I think Nashville would be a better fit.
Probably.
In Tennessee,
Yeah.
because they already have a pro football team. Of course, Memphis does have a pro basketball team. So either one of those, and both of those cities, of course, I don't think Memphis and Nashville will get a baseball team, but both of those cities are on the thought, that I guess you might say the radar to land a Major League Baseball team. But either way, I'll be cheering for the Braves.
You know, Charlie Finley, who owned the Oakland A's, okay, he wanted to get an NFL team into Birmingham. And he talked to Bear Bryant about it, wanted him to become the head coach of the Birmingham team. And Bear Bryant says, Charlie Finley's eyes are bigger than his stomach. He says he talks about this, but there's no way the NFL is going to let a maverick like Charlie Finley into their organization. And he was right. They never did do a thing.
Yeah.
And of course, then he tried to buy the Miami Dolphins. They wouldn't sell, but the Miami Dolphins wanted Bear Bryant, and he came close to getting it before he decided to change his mind. But, you know, that sort of thing. But, you know, you talk about all these expansion teams. You go in there, you know, Birmingham's had the USFL. They had the World Football League.
Birmingham is also another city that was on that radar for a Major League Baseball team.
Because they had a ready-made stadium, which really wasn't that good a shape. That's why they don't hardly play at Legion Field anymore, Alabama and Auburn. So, basically, I don't think anybody really plays at Legion Field anymore except high school teams. Alabama Birmingham has a new stadium, so they're not playing at Legion Field anymore. So that sort of thing. And, you know, okay, now let's go to the pro football. We had the draft a few weeks back, and, of course, the number one pick was the
Cam Ward.
Okay. The 90th anniversary. Now, here's something for you. Who was the very first player drafted in 1936, 90th anniversary?
I have no idea.
Jay Berwanger from the University of Chicago. That's when the University of Chicago was a big power in college football before they started de-emphasizing football. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. His very first Heisman Trophy winner, by the way, University of Chicago. He never played it down for the NFL. Why? Because he chose to go into business instead of playing football. He said he can make more money on his business because at the time, pro football paid about $2,000 a year, and that was for the big stars.
Right.
So basically, is that you didn't make a living off it, and so as a result, he never did play for. He was played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. There was a football team called the Brooklyn Dodgers. Yeah. I don't know what happened to it, whether it became another team or whatever, but that sort of thing. But of course, the quarterback from the University, Miami?
University of Miami, yep. The U, Cam Ward, went to the Titans.
Right.
And I really, it kind of took me by surprise. It took me by surprise because historically, and I'll even say stereotypically, coming from Miami.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just saying, I'm not passing judgment, but I'm just saying stereotypically, the people who play at Miami and who come from Miami and go into the pros, they're what we would call punks.
That's right.
They are high-minded. They think they are it. And I thought the same thing about Cam Ward during the college football season. I did. But after reading some things about him in regards to the draft, how he showed up, how he showed himself, he was very humble at the draft. He was very grounded, you might say, in his interviews. And honestly, I mean, he changed my mind a little bit about Miami.
He was a nice person.
He seems to be a very nice kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Seems to have. Now, unless he was just blowing smoke in those interviews and things like that, I don't know. But you
can't fake it.
A lot of articles have said that, and the reason that these articles have surfaced is because he came from Miami.
Yeah.
He came from Miami,
yeah.
and he has a very level head. Seems to be willing to do, has good work ethic, very respectful, and it's strange in and of itself. But I was very impressed with him, what I'd read on him. Now, do I think he will succeed to a great level at the NFL? That remains to be seen. I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he won't. But I am saying that he has the head on his shoulders to succeed if he will just get the right people around him.
Yeah, that's right. Tennessee Titans are going to have to really pick some people. Of course, we know about Neon's son at Colorado, and he said he did not come across very good in interviews, and his stock just dropped.
I'm having to hold my eyes to keep them from rolling back so far into my head that I'll never be able to see the pupils again. But I am as sick of hearing about Shedeur Sanders as I am of hearing about Nico leaving Avadava. I'm sick of it. Move on. Okay, Shedeur dug his own grave.
That's right.
He came in there in those meetings, and he did not succeed in those meetings at all. And I'm not saying the kid's not talented. I'm not saying that at all. But I will say this. The vast majority of his talent is riding up on the coattail of his father. Period.
Who was sort of, it was an interfering father.
Dion was an exceptional athlete.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
You cannot deny that.
He came up with the chops, so that
he played with the Braves, Reds, and the Yankees, and that's the notable teams he played with, as well as the Falcons, 49ers, and Cowboys. He's one of the only he's actually the only player to hit a home run and score a touchdown in the same week. The only other dual sport athlete that comes to mind is Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
Playing baseball and football. And so obviously you have to have a level of skill to do those things. Dion was an exceptional athlete. Take nothing away from that, but he knew he was good. And he puts on a front. He's flashy. I get it. That's just Dion. That's why he's called Neon Dion.
Yeah.
That's just the way he is. It's not that he's trying to be something that he's not. That's just Dion, okay? And I'm not saying anything negative about him. That's just the way he is.
Yeah.
But with that being said, his son, compared to his dad's talent, is subpar at best.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not there. And I'm not saying Shedeur can't play sports. He played at Colorado. He passed for over 4,000 yards last year, 29 touchdowns. Okay, big deal. Okay. He did great last year.
That's right.
But he's not as hot as he thinks he is.
That's right.
And when he went into those meetings with the Giants, he had it made. If he would have went in there with some humility and went in there and listened instead of trying to go in there and tell them what they were going to do, he might have been one of the top 5 draft picks.
He could have been.
He could very well have been. But the fact that he had those meetings, he brought his entourage with him. He brought in, the headphones that were hanging around his neck that were playing music so loud, even the people who were interviewing him couldn't, hear what he was saying. I'm just like, all the flash, all the fame, all the glory, all the gold, even built and remodeled a room in his house just for the draft, and he calls himself legendary. The kid's not accomplished anything to be legendary yet.
No, he has not done
and they
it.
retired his number. They retired he and Travis Hunter's number at Colorado. Now, Travis Hunter might have deserved that.
Yeah.
That can be argued.
He won the Heisman.
He won the Heisman. That can be argued. But you can't take away from the other Colorado football players that have succeeded to a higher level. What comes to my mind is Cordell Stewart. Cordell Stewart, quarterback for Colorado. Successful career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He, if anybody, should have his number retired. What about when Colorado won the national championship? What about the quarterback then?
Yeah.
What about the kids who've played and accomplished great things? Shedeur Sanders has not done that. And like I said, he's a great athlete, but he dug his own grave, and he went to the Browns as a late pick. And the odd thing is, is the pick from Oregon, Gibbons. Is that his name?
Yeah.
He's decided to wear the number 2. That's Shadur Sanders' number.
Yeah.
So already there's turmoil
Yeah,
in the locker room there.
already-
And something that I noticed too when they interviewed Deion Sanders, he said, "I will be there at the meeting when the Browns discuss things with my son."
Yeah, that's the
You know,
problem.
like, well, you know what? You can go ahead and do that, Deion, but you're probably going to do more harm than good. Stay out of your boy's business. Let him play, man. Let him do his own thing. And Shadur Sanders, if he would just come down to earth a little bit and take away the portion of his career that says my daddy is Deion Sanders, and take that away and say I'm going to do my own thing, I think he'll succeed. I think he'll do great.
I think the players on that team will tell him, your daddy ain't playing here because you're playing against us. You're playing with us. And, you know, look at Bo Jackson. I met Bo Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the guy's got it all together. He's a very humble guy, very nice guy, and all that. And I had the nerve to ask him about the Tennessee game in 1985. And he said, you know what? He said, you know what happened? We came in with a mindset that we won in our heads, we lost it on the field. And he said that the minute Tennessee hit us, we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And he said the simple fact of the matter is that I could not move. And he said that Tennessee defense was the most ferocious defense I've ever faced in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And he said they beat us fair and square. And you know what he said afterward? He said after that game, he said Tennessee's going to win the Southeastern Conference Championship because they've got a monster defense and a better than average offense. And Tennessee won the SEC title. You know, they played against Miami. And he said Tennessee fans, you know, I heard some people say this about Tennessee. Miami wouldn't even shake Tennessee players' hands in the midfield for the coin toss. He said that's
Yeah.
when you he said that was like throwing meat in front of the lions.
Yeah,
It-
that's a
and
bad
Tennessee
omen.
just,
You don't ever want to do
just
that.
killed him. He said they say even the Miami players tried to interrupt the T being formed. They didn't understand it, and they had to make sure, the coaches had to make sure those players did not get into a fracas with the Miami players,
Right.
and that's what happened. But you know, let's face the facts right now. You're good at your sport. Bo Jackson was good at his sport. First time when he said after he had been signed by the Royals, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to batting practice. And the first time he hit a home run, he hit that Royal right in the middle, which is the target. That's how good. If he hadn't been injured, he would have been.
If Bo Jackson had not hurt his hip with the Raiders, I mean, he would have went down as probably one of the greatest athletes to ever face any field.
His commercials were hilarious.
Bo knows.
Bo knows.
Yeah.
He knew it wasn't arrogance. He was just basically he was having fun with the image.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, but he had the ability to back it up. I mean, to watching the games that he played in, you know, because I remember as a kid, you know, he was still playing with the White Sox. I mean, his career wasn't completely over when I was old enough to watch him, you know, and you can't argue with it. I mean, he had a great career to what little career he had before injuries took over, but you know, he had a name for himself. And
he could have gone to Alabama. In fact, Bear Bryant wanted him, and you know what it is? His mother said, "I don't want you in Tuscaloosa."
Yeah.
He said, "I want you where you won't get into trouble." And so we got Auburn, and that was it. And that's what Bear Bryant said. If I can't recruit Bo Jackson, I can't recruit him at all. So that's one of the reasons why he retired, because Bo Jackson beat him.
Oh yeah.
At the first time in contact. Okay, everybody, we of course we're going about ready to leave you, and of course the girls' game against Marion County Thursday night. That'll be a 5 p.m. start, I believe, at Dunlap. We'd like the fans to show up to urge the Warriors on to win against Marion County and to lead the district tournament channels for the third straight year. They're 15-1 in district tournament play, so that's a pretty good record. You know, they lost to Marion County, and to avenge that loss to Marion County. So we want the fans to show up. We need the fans to show up. If you can't show up, we're of course going to have to broadcast that game Thursday on here on WAT, and of course Bledsoe's in the region. But the important is win, and you host the first round game next week. So, Bradley, you have some final words to say before we leave?
Well, I do. Before we leave, I want to make sure we understand that don't forget the NBA playoffs going on right now. Semifinals are coming up. Conference finals coming up next. Los Angeles Lakers are not there. They are out. And Los Angeles is the New York Yankees to me in basketball. I'm not a big basketball fan in regards to the pros, but, hey, some people just, live and die by it, and that's great. But Oklahoma City's playing Denver, Minnesota is playing Golden State, Cleveland plays Indiana, and New York Knicks is playing Boston. So tune into those if you're a fan of NBA. And like you said, go support the Lady Warriors tomorrow night if you can. Let's pack the house, get a lot of purple and gold, Sequatchie County people down there with us, and blue and gold coming together. We can make this work, and have a good atmosphere for these ladies, and support them any way that we can. Chop till you drop. And the last thing I'm going to say is go blue, go Braves, and go Big Orange.
Go Mets, go Yankees. And you will wear one of those two hats at the end of the season.
I will
when
not
the Mets
wear
or
that.
the Yankees win the World Series. I promise you that. And I will have that hat for
I will not
say
wear it.
World Champions on them.
Not
sure
gonna happen.
you will. And so anyway, we bid you farewell. We'll hopefully see you in another 2 weeks as you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, Channel 18 and WATA 110. Ethan, when will the programs, because somebody's been asking me that, when will you be showing this on Bledsoe Telephone?
This new program will start Monday.
Monday, okay. So some people have been asking me about that. So Mondays here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, Channel 18. We'll see you next two weeks from now. Good night, good day, everybody, as you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene.